Chris Anthony.
Hello, sir.
Thanks for coming, man.
You got it, my man. Thanks, Marty.
So you are the very first interview on my new podcast, Instincts.
I love it.
Now,
honored, by the way.
Thank you. In the Navy SEAL teams, when you do something for the first time, it's a case of beer.
Yeah.
So first jump, you have a case of beer. So everybody else gets to drink based on your new fame and fortune. So
yeah.
Great having you here.
Thank you, sir.
We've known each other for what, about 2 years?
Yeah.
Because I'm a golf professional.
Yes.
That you were attracted to that.
Yeah. And you gave me some incredible tips, by the way.
Yeah. Especially use really bright balls because you lose them all the time. Yeah. But you've been a very good friend, person to know. You're also on our foundation, in addition to being a senior vice president at Sotheby's.
Yep.
And we have, we'll have time to talk a little bit about, what you think about veterans and all that. But what I'd really like to know, because I don't think we've ever had this conversation this way, I'd really like to know a little bit about your background. I mean, as far back as you're comfortable going.
Okay.
I mean, we have some guests. I have another guest that I'm going to be recording that he wrote a book, a business book. And when I saw the draft, I said, great book. There's nothing in here about you.
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? I said, you need an intro that talks about you so people care about you. They know you. Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
He's a military veteran. Now he's a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And Bob Pazine is his name. And so Bob was like, well, how far back? As far back as you think it has an impact on the person you've become.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right?
Well, I fear it's going to be very boring compared to your life, but I'll grew up in upstate New York. Syracuse, just a little town outside of Syracuse, New York. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My mom raised us as a single mom and learned a lot from her. She's a wonderful woman. She lives right around here, by the way. She's in Wellington, 82 now, 83.
Wow.
And walks 4 miles a day. She's a beast. She's great. I went to high school, grew up in Syracuse, and then I ended up going to Niagara University for university. Played rugby there. I was a football player in high school. Like you, we share a common love of martial arts. I think one of probably my best memory as a kid was I was turning into a punk kid. My older brother got me into martial arts. I fell in love with it. Kempo karate back in the day. Used to go all over the country and into Canada for tournaments. That shaped a lot of who I am. I think the discipline, the dedication to a sport, and to the martial arts. And as my life went on, I got into different martial arts along the way. But that's a big thing that shaped me, I think, as a kid. I don't think I ever told you this, but my uncle, my father's brother, my Uncle Ron, was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
And
no, you didn't.
And at about, it had to be 10 or 11 years old. He taught me that in his division where he was in the Marine Corps, I think it was his drill instructor that taught him, you're not allowed to say, I don't know. So he taught me, I think at 10 or 11 years old, how to say, I don't know in Marine Corps speak. And I've never forgotten it. So let me see if I have it.
Okay.
Sir, having not been informed to the highest degree of accuracy, I hesitate to articulate for fear that I may deviate from the true course of rectitude, sir. And he goes, Christopher, in other words, you don't know.
Do me a favor, write that down. I've got a lot of Marine friends. I've never heard anybody tell me that.
So my Uncle Ron taught me and my brothers that. And I was, I'm the youngest of 5, but I couldn't have been more than 11 years old when he taught me that. And for whatever reason, it stuck in my head.
All right. So let me get this straight. Martial arts, Marine Corps influences, and that led you straight to real estate.
Yeah. Obvious segue, right into real estate. I started, so out of college, I had 2 older brothers who I adore and looked up to and worship, basically, and Tony and John. I have a brother, by the way, Anthony. My last name's Anthony. His first name's Anthony.
I love redundancy.
He named his son that too, so we have some issues. But they were in sales right out of college. And I used to go to Center City, Philadelphia, where they lived and visit them. And I just liked the life that they were living, and just stand up guys, great guys. So I kind of veered into that myself. I started in sports advertising. I used to sell ad space for the Phillies, the Flyers, the Eagles, and the Sixers, right in Center City, Philadelphia. Branched off my best friend from college and I, he had just started a business and he wanted me to help him run it. So I moved to Florida. I think I was 24, 25. And we built something up from just, a couple of us to over 100 employees. And then along the way, and I'm going to try to not be long-winded about this, but along the way, I met my ex, who's still a great friend of mine, Kara, and her dad was a mayor of a small little town, a beach town in New Jersey. This is the late 90s. We started going up and looking at properties and I was living in Boca Raton at the time. So I went to Jersey and there was, multifamily houses on the beach block for like $180,000. So I bought one, I bought another. Her uncle and I started partnering together and we bought several. And we would fix them up and rent them out, sometimes flip them. And I think that was my first touch of real estate that really kind of gave me the bug. Yeah. My mom, by the way, was a broker in upstate New York, and she supported our family on real estate. So I think that had an early influence on me. But as I started doing that, I took to it. I enjoyed it. I'm pretty good with numbers, and I enjoyed, looking at profits and things like that. And just the way that it came to be. Eventually we had like 8 or 9 places, and my Kara wanted to move up to New Jersey. She wanted to be closer to her family, and I fell in love with the Jersey Shore up there. Bought a place on the water, and then as that grew, I decided to get my real estate license for that purpose of just my own properties. And then I sold one house to good friends of mine that I still have today, and this is 23 or 24 years ago. And I just fell in love with it. Took off and started selling a lot of houses. And within a couple of years, I was, one of the top 1% in the company. And then I was asked to get into different leadership roles as a managing broker, as a regional vice president type of guy. And eventually I built my way up, and Jim Weichert, who I used to work for, asked me, he was the owner of the company. He asked me to go to DC and run all of the offices in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Wow. And so I became the president of the Capital Region, and I lived in, the Capital Region for a couple of years. I moved out of probably a 4,500, maybe 5,000 square foot house on the water to an 800 square foot apartment a couple of months before COVID hit. So it was, it changed everything. But ultimately, all those years led me up to what I do now. And as I always say, chance meets the prepared mind. And
Louis Pasteur.
Yeah, exactly. And I moved from, I decided I wanted to get back to Florida. My family was here. I had a nephew at the time who was in high school, was an All-American baseball player. And I'm very close with my nieces and nephews. I wanted to be closer to them. And, serendipitously, I guess it worked out. Another company wanted me to come down. I was almost going to join the other company. I got a gut feeling not to. And a couple of days later, literally, I met the owner of my company, the president of our company, Daniel De La Vega. And we just hit it off. When you just meet someone and it's right. Yeah. And we had a couple of conversations. It was like a Thursday. I think on Friday afternoon, I was on a plane on my way to Miami to meet him, because he wanted to break bread and make sure that it was right. The next day I had a contract. It just worked out right. And that was 5 years ago.
So I get your passion, the origin of the real estate passion, besides your mother's influence, the buying of real estate. So I read a book by Robert Gibbons, and it was basically a financial book. And I was in the Navy, and it told you how to do a lot of things, but there was a whole chapter on how to buy a house, and then how to either buy a house that you want to live in, buy a house to sell it, buy a house to rent it. And I had zero experience in it. And I just got messed around with it. And then my mom was having all kinds of issues. She needed to come down to Florida because of her health. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try this what this book says. Now I'm in San Diego. Yeah. This is way before internet and all that stuff. I call a broker, and I use all these little tricks and tools. and I buy a house in Winter Park, Orlando.
Yeah.
3-bedroom house. And at that point, I had only owned a townhouse my entire life.
Yeah.
So now I've got a 3-bedroom house, new construction. There was how Florida ebbs and flows on whether houses are sitting there or moving fast.
What year was this? Do you remember?
It would have been 89.
Okay.
89, 90. And so I got it for a really good deal, but I get the house, and even though it ended up being my mom, I wasn't charging her rent. It broke the mystique, right, of somebody who doesn't deal with that or banks or mortgages or anything. So, okay, so I can repeat this.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think of it as an asset. I thought it was just a way of making sure my mom was okay. But I repeated it, and then I repeated it, and I repeated it. And all of a sudden, wow, I've got like real estate assets. I'm like, so I've done that a couple times in my life, and wanted to go into like commercial ag for a while. I was going to buy, land that had mineral rights and timber rights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there was more to it than just buying a house. And I'm not very handy with tools. So I've watched me and
We're twins like that.
Yeah, me and my wife, we watched all these, beachfront stuff and everything. She said, "Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Well, let's go tear a bathroom down and let's demo the bathroom." Yeah. I'm like, well, we can demo it. I know how to do that.
I got the demo down.
I used to be a demo expert, but I don't think I can rebuild it.
Yeah.
And so I shied away from the flipping. And I missed at least one window where I lived up north, where I knew lots of people that were casually flipping houses on the side, making a ton of money. Just couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
So you said something about your gut feeling. And when I asked you about your influences, what I'm really trying to figure out is where you end up, where you are now. Can you see a straight line back to a point? You're like your mother's influence and seeing what she was doing. And was it subtle? Was it kind of in the back of your mind, or was it just my wife was a single mother before I met her and married her almost 25 years ago. And I thought she was very heroic. She was working multiple jobs. She was raising these 2 girls. I mean, to me, that was the imprint.
Sure.
And was that what you got from her involvement in real estate, and later on you just kind of stumbled into real estate? Because the point of the podcast is gut instincts.
Yeah.
Is it a thing? Is it not a thing? Do you believe in it?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you finally got into real estate, did it feel like the right thing instinctively, or tell me about that?
It did. It was natural. It wasn't. I don't think I was intentional about it, if that's what you mean. I didn't set forth and say, I want to be a really successful real estate agent. I want to be a very successful leader in real estate. I think that part happened, by chance. But I think everything in life happens for a reason, right? And I think when I started buying places, it just put it in the back of my head, and it wasn't consciously. I literally, I think it wasn't until I moved to New Jersey and I saw the working process and I had bought a townhouse in Boca, and I was a young kid. I was 25, I think, when I bought my first place, 25 or 26. And honestly, I had the worst experience with the agent that I bought the place through. She was terrible, didn't ask me questions, kind of dictated the policy and what you're going to do instead of sitting with me for my wants and needs. So I think I look back at that and I say, all right, I could do this way better than her. So, but if you draw the line back, I think it would be just doing it a couple of times on my own, which I think everyone should do. And in buying the places with Kara's uncle, I think it made me realize that, okay, this isn't this monumental task that it felt like the first time I bought a place. And then as we bought a few more, it just became regular for me. And I started thinking, all right, I could turn this into a career. I was thinking more about, buying the multifamilies and having these assets. But then I started thinking about like selling real estate as well. And honestly, it was where I was living at the beach in New Jersey, where we moved back to. I was probably an hour and 10 minutes to Philly and about an hour and a half to New York. With light traffic. And I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to get back into advertising or some sort of sales and probably be in one of the cities, or I could do this here locally. Love the beach,
Right.
love surfing. And it just kind of became something that I said, all right, let me throw my energy into this. And as I did, I just enjoyed it more and more. So it'd be hard to draw the line back and say that I was intentional with wanting to be in real estate. But once I did it, it just seemed like that's the instinctive part where it's like, this is what I'm meant to do.
And that's, so the intentional, I'm writing a new book right now, and the subtitle is Destroy Doubt and Lead an Intentional, basically an intentional life.
I love that.
To achieve intentional performance. And I've been interviewed, I've been asked, did you decide to be a SEAL? Did you decide to do this? And I could make a really quick work of that question and say, yeah. It's all part of the master plan.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I mean, I actually stumbled into a lot of these things. And in the moment, looking back at it, I can't answer with calculus. I can't say, I actually sat down and I did Benjamin Franklin on one hand, on the other hand, here are all the positives, here are all the negatives. No, yes. I just kind of, and I was swayed sometimes by people that were high energy, high like aura energy, people that you just felt like this person seems to really be switched on, really understands what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that something's attracting me to that, to do that job. Right.
Well said. I don't think it's hard to be that calculated to say, all right, this is how I'm going to line my life up. But
people are looking for that formula when they talk to, I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm like, what was the formula? What was the calculus? You were sitting there in college and you had, everybody wants, this is the movie, right? This is the Hollywood version of it.
Sure.
You're Bill Gates. You open up the notebook. Microsoft. I'll call it Microsoft. I'm going to quit Harvard and I'm going to build this thing and become a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
But in reality, when you talk to people like you, anybody that's been successful, it's not a straight line to success. Sometimes they went on a couple of detours. And maybe they weren't detours. Maybe they had a great profession in one direction, and then all of a sudden they did something. Like Roger Staubach's a good example.
Yeah.
Fantastic as a naval officer.
Mm-hmm.
Did time, in Vietnam. Was a great NFL football player, but also became a real estate baron, essentially, and had all kinds of spin-off businesses from that. So he's an exceptional businessman. And you find people like that, and when they do the other thing, it's the same experience.
Yeah.
It's not calculated. Yeah. They see or hear or get embraced by some point of view, usually conveyed by a human being, and they go, yeah, I think I could try that.
Yeah.
And then they get pulled right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and it's funny, I was doing a coaching call the other day with a pretty well-known real estate coach, and we were talking about the process, right? You do the process, you hope for the result, right? But the results are always going to change, but you don't switch your process unless your results just continually don't work out the way they're supposed to work out, right? But the process is the process.
And back to the instincts concept.
Yeah.
So in SEAL training, they train you for unknown situations, but they train you on how to make a judgment call. And so you've got all these different inputs on judgment, but they don't know what the situation is going to be because you're in special operations, special force, whatever. So you're not going to be able to choreograph that moment. It doesn't script it. What they're doing is they're trying to make you a quick decision maker, rational, in the moment based on what you're faced with, the reality, right? So if somebody says, we want you to blow the door open to go in, and you get up there and you think, wait a minute, you turn the knob and it just opens. Later on, it's like, well, why did you decide to do that? In the debriefs, why did you decide to do that? And why did you just put a breaching truck up?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was the judgment in the moment. Well, it's because you've been taught to think that way.
Sure.
And to test the reality that you're facing and maybe do something different. Hunters would say, you're going out there to hunt, let's say you're out there to hunt deer, and you get out of your truck and you take 10 steps in the woods and there's a massive elk.
Yeah.
And it's in season. Do you shoot the elk? You say, no, I'm deer hunting today.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Yeah.
And that's how the universe throws opportunities at you.
Absolutely.
And it's not as calculated as people want it to be. I think people that train people to deal with this and write books about it want you to think there's a formula, there's a secret sauce, a 3-step process, whatever. But I mean, you don't seem like you're following that. You seem like you're more of the instinctive guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be, right? Wouldn't it be? I don't know if life would be better or boring if there were no variables, right? But you have to have variables in life. There's going to be variables in life, whether you're doing real estate, whether you're in a martial arts like jujitsu. There's always variables, and if you prep for just one of those, you're in a lot of trouble, especially if you're on the mats and
Right.
you're thinking someone's going to go after an arm bar, but they take your leg. It's a whole different world, as you know. So I think you have to prepare yourself for everything, and get yourself to a point in life. In my job, it's ironic, but I literally don't do the same thing every single day. Like there's in a 5-day week, I will probably, I'm at different offices. I'm sometimes talking to developers. Sometimes I'm talking to my agents and coaching them up. Sometimes I'm just doing PR or things like that. So it's always changing. It's ever evolving, right? What we do. And I think if you're good at any skill or any career, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to shift and pivot, right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned jujitsu. So you and I guess, probably within the last 5 months, had lunch and with our mutual friend Pete Gary, and we started going down the martial arts trail.
Yeah.
And swapping stories, swapping examples and impressions. How much do you think, whether you did it consistently in one particular type of martial arts or not? I know you're a jiu-jitsu guy now, and as you just mentioned,
a low-level jiu-jitsu guy. I was I was much more in karate. I love jiu-jitsu. It's actually, I love it, but I am by far from an expert.
But it's a sport of opportunity. Yeah. It's exactly what you just articulated. You train as much as you can in everything you can, and then you're faced with the reality of the person you're sparring with.
Yeah.
And if they do something with their body and it indicates they're going to go for an arm bar.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to prepare for an arm bar, and also they do something else.
Yeah.
The opportunity that you thought was there for you wasn't really opportunity. It was fed to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that's the mind game of it, right?
It's human chess.
But what are the other positives of just general martial arts exposure when you were growing up? What things do you think helped you now or helped you up to this point?
God, great question, by the way. I think it's so many things. I think, first of all, and ironically, early this morning, I was at the gym and I was talking to a woman who was there with her daughter, and we were, and her daughter's got this gregarious, great personality. She's a very confident young kid. She's probably, if I had to guess, 8 or 9 years old, and always looks everyone in the eye and says hello to them. And I had asked her if she ever did any martial arts. It turns out she's a swimmer, but I was telling her about my jiu-jitsu academy is right in my gym. So it's like in a back room where my gym is. And I was telling her all about it and how it forms discipline and for young kids, especially, that, karate did this for me, but jiu-jitsu probably even more so, is it just gives you confidence. You have to deal with different situations. You have to deal with different variables. And for me, someone who was pretty high level in karate, I still remember, and it was back in New Jersey, not at my current school, but walking in my first day and like, I'm a pretty tough guy. I can handle myself, and just getting pummeled by, I'm 210, getting pummeled by 150-pound guys, that some of which were 18 years old. And I was just like, oh, maybe this isn't and I think everyone has that feeling in the beginning when they start jujitsu is, oh, maybe this isn't for me, damn it, I wish I wrestled when I was playing basketball or what, but it humbles you, and it makes you realize, and I think we need more of it in the world today, makes you realize that there's a lot of people out there that are tougher than you. There's a lot of people out there that can handle themselves. But for me, it was, maybe it's my type of person that I am. I was like, oh, I need to get good at this, So it was, and it's been a journey. I tore my shoulder twice, and told you about 3.5 months ago, I tore my bicep off my shoulder. I tore my labrum. But those are just setbacks, and it's part of life, right?
Humility. I think that's a real key. When I was a young SEAL, we had an old Vietnam vet guy, and one of his things was, you think you're a big badass SEAL.
Yeah.
You walk into a bar, any bar, anywhere in the world, there's at least one other person that's a lot more badass than you. You don't know who they are yet.
Yeah.
So you got to keep your head on the swivel and think about that.
Yeah.
And if you get too drunk and you talk to the wrong person in the wrong way, and that's that person, they're going to have a good day and you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, well, wait, you're a combat veteran, SEAL, badass and everything. Why would you? That seems defeatist. That seems, because we're all young kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when the moment comes or you see it happen to somebody else, you're like, holy crap. You aren't, part of it's your head's not in the game, whether it's in a bar because you're drinking or you're kind of in your own head, not really paying attention to situational awareness of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you walked into
That's everything in martial arts.
You walked into a bar, it's like a gang bar or something. You don't even know, you're in a different town, you walk in.
Yeah.
And everybody looks at you. I don't care if you're in El Paso or Baghdad. There's a certain skill to read the room before you go too far into the room.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, you learn it the hard way. It's hard to teach, especially to teach young people, because they just believe they're invincible, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, back to your jiu-jitsu example, the interesting thing, I think, is when you take your mind off what you're supposed to be doing, the focus, which is, you see people that are successful like you are, and they're doing a lot of different things, and they seem to be successful in all these different categories. Those people are really good at focusing when they have to focus and shifting focus when they have. They're not multitaskers. They're not scrambling around trying to do everything the same way, right?
Yeah.
But even those people have a moment where they should be doing this, but they're doing or thinking about something else.
Yeah.
And in martial arts, that's the moment you get your bell rung, or you get all of a sudden you find the opening 3 pages to my last novel is the hero figure getting choked out by a female college student that is 2 belt levels below him in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I wanted to set the tone right off the bat. Anybody, even the hero, can have their day or not.
Yeah.
And I wanted to teach that humiliation thing to make that character real.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. I didn't have to make that up. That happens. That happens every day.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And there's an ongoing joke, and there's like some memes on Instagram about it, but it's the higher level belt getting in a really bad position and about to be choked out or about to have an armbar, armbar or triangle or whatever, put on him. And he stops the roll and says, "That was perfect. What you did right there. What I would have done was I would have done this a little bit better." But to I guess, avoid the embarrassment of that,
escape, which is happening. Yeah.
But that's the greatest thing about jiu-jitsu. And it's, different sizes, different shapes, different sexes, all together training,
And what do they call the guys that are teaching? Professors.
Exactly right.
To emphasize it's a learning process.
It really is. And it's, I keep learning, and God willing, I'll be doing it into my 70s, I hope. But it's just something that has become almost a ritual for me. And once I heal up, I'll be back there. We train every weekday morning at 7 a.m. and it's just fun. It's a great way to start the day and put you in the right headspace for the rest of the day.
It is. I was telling the story this morning at breakfast with a Green Beret, and I went into Muay Thai when I was 51. So I did martial arts when I was younger, all the standard martial arts, boxed even. Muay Thai, a guy that I knew owned a studio and had guys in there teaching Muay Thai to all age groups. And I decided, okay, I'll go in there and do that. But I had enough experience and athleticism that I wasn't getting anything out of a regular class.
Yeah.
So I did private lessons.
Yeah.
So 3 times a week for an hour during lunch, I went to the gym, and the guy that was training me, that I was paying to beat me up, had 100 professional fights. He was TJ Dillashaw's strike coach for the UFC when he was first starting out.
Wow.
And he won the King's Cup in Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah. And he had like a 6-inch reach on me.
Yeah.
And he had legs that were about up to here on. And my wife would cry when she saw me at night, because my legs were just battered and bruised and purple and green.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And the real answer was, I was a CEO. I was running a bunch of different companies. And, with all the press in the last 20 years about SEALs and everything, self-esteem, so you feel like you've arrived and all that. Well, when you're standing in a room and some guy hits you in the nose, because you don't go in many bar fights when you get older, right?
Yeah.
Hits you in the nose, and then you go like that.
Yeah.
And then he goes and throws a punch, he hits you in the nose, and then you back up.
Yeah.
So you're like a second and a half behind.
That's true.
and you're getting hit, and you can't reach him, and then you get hit, and then you can't reach him. Talk about humility. I mean, I actually had this really long cathartic moment. I said, this is what I really should be doing.
Yeah.
It's resetting me.
Absolutely.
I'm now at a point where I'm not all that. I'm definitely not all that in this situation, right?
Yeah.
And if I want to get to the point where I change what's going on here, I have to train hard. Because I asked him, I said, I'll pay training to be a fighter along with learning Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And being a fighter is like you think, you're doing all kinds of other drills and things before you go out and just do the techniques or spar.
Well, there's levels to everything,
Right.
You can train Muay Thai, but if you're training to be a fighter, it's a whole different level.
It is. You got to change my lifestyle, my diet, and everything. And it took 3.5 years to get to what they would equate to a black belt level.
Yeah.
And then when that was done, I'm like, I really liked that 3.5 year experience.
Yeah.
It changed the way I led people. It changed the way I made decisions about things. It made me more, I guess, I thought about things more, and I thought about people more, and about their backgrounds and what they've been through. And it reattached me to the human, the human community rather than just being in a job every day doing the task related to the job. So,
and the irony of that is, as you're saying that, as you get more skilled in any fighter, but whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether it's Muay Thai, you need to do it less. You don't want to go out and get in a bar fight. You don't need to. You don't have anything to prove. Right. And that's why they always say, when you were giving me the example of, there's always a guy in the bar tougher than you. Usually that guy's a quiet one. It's not the big mouth. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking about that as you're saying that. And it's just, the more you train, the more you kind of leave all those things, with cortisol levels being what they are nowadays, and with social media can get you going, and you can look at that and scroll through things and get angry. I think when you start your day with some discipline and your word that I love, humility, it changes,
Yeah.
Your whole mindset shifts, doesn't it?
It does. And I going along the same theme on bar fights and stuff. I saw a couple of bar fights where that guy, the one guy, whatever, somebody came up, and before the antagonist got one sentence out of their mouth, there was a strike or there was a hit with an object, and they went down, and the guy finished his drink and walked out.
Yeah.
Like a Clint Eastwood movie, right?
Yeah.
And I remember describing it to somebody, and I said, yeah, because people like that don't get into fights. They just win and walk away.
Yeah.
A fight is an engagement of two people, right? Yeah.
Maybe they get out of situations.
Maybe you're not, evenly matched or something. Yeah. The real guys, I saw that was the same as negotiating. You look at guys like Trump that say, good negotiators set the boundaries, they anchor the points, they prep the whole environment, the psychology and everything before they start to do any engagement with whoever they're going to negotiate with. Yeah. So they aren't in a negotiation. Yeah. They're basically just going to close. Yeah. And the other person doesn't realize that they've been in a negotiation.
Well, because what you said before about awareness, social awareness and being aware, they've set the scene before the scene takes place. Right?
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. And you always got to think 3 steps ahead in life, I think. I do that more maybe than some people do, or some people actually admit to do it. Most people say, I live in the moment, or, I try to not screw up things from the past that are going well. Yeah. Just keep the straight line moving. But most of what's going on between people's ears is wondering what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's so right. And that, I think, is that between martial arts and business, that's how it's the same, right? In jiu-jitsu or in Muay Thai, you can do one thing to set up something 2 or 3 moves away, right? And you're doing the same thing in business. You're prepping for what you want your goal, end result, your reach goal maybe to be. And it's the same in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? You might do the same thing 3 times in a row, and he goes to defend it the 3rd time, and you're setting something completely different up,
Right.
I love that. And I think that's kind of the cerebral part of the sport, just as it is in business. Because if you don't have a plan and you're just going to the office and showing up every day, it's a whole different outcome, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears for a second. Tell me a little bit about your nephew. I know you're very proud of him. I actually looked him up a couple of times now.
Yeah. So my nephew's Roman Anthony. Roman was last year, and I mentioned before, All-American in high school. He was all set to go to Ole Miss to play his college ball, and the Boston Red Sox drafted him right out of high school. Gatorade Player of the Year in Florida in high school. I have no idea where he got all the athletic talent because it wasn't from his father or me. But I'm joking. We were decent athletes, but nowhere near his level.
Right.
Roman got drafted. He worked his way through the minor leagues for a couple of years, and he became the number one prospect in all of baseball, which is before you actually have the time in major leagues. They rank you. And sometimes that's a legit thing, and the guy goes on to huge success. Sometimes it's just, you could be a number one prospect and never really make it at that level in Major League Baseball, which is just, I think, one of the hardest sports to really excel at. He made his debut in Fenway Park June 9th last year, 2025. And he, like anyone would, it took him a little bit to acclimate to it. But then he just went on a tear. We actually went up for his debut game. And it was his father, my brother, his mom, my sister-in-law, I adore, who's like my sister, and his brother and sister, myself, our mom, and her husband Jim. And to be sitting, they gave us the owner's box in Fenway, which is literally right next to the dugout where the guys are all playing. So Roman was coming in and out of the game, and right there with us. And he got his first RBI when we were there, and the place erupted. And it was just, I remember looking at my brother like, is this actually real right now? So he went on to have a hugely successful, I guess we'll call it freshman campaign or rookie season. He got called up midway through the season. He actually got hurt. He tore his oblique at the very end of the season. He missed like the last 25 or 30 games. Red Sox made it to the playoffs. They ended up not going past the Yankees, but they were pretty beat up. There were several guys on the team, including Roman, that were hurt. But he was, I think he was third place in Rookie of the Year for the American League. He signed an unbelievable contract with them, which doesn't usually happen in your first year in the bigs. And they locked him up for 8 years, and now he is doing amazing things. We just found out last week that he made Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. So my 21-year-old nephew is going to be in the outfield with Aaron Judge. So it's like,
it's strange because so this superstar athlete, right? You've known him since he was little guy.
Yeah. However, I still beat him at golf. I want the record to show that I can still beat him at one sport.
That's good.
Probably the only sport, and probably not for long.
And now that you said this, he's going to hear this.
Forget it. He's going to
start training hard.
Yeah, I'm dead by next year.
But all the pictures they were showing of the U.S. hockey team, right?
Yeah.
Men's hockey team, women's hockey team, they show the kid shots. Yeah. And nowadays, everything's videotaped because they're so young on phones and stuff. So there's lots and lots of footage of 6-year-old and 7-year-olds. I want to play hockey, or I want to play this.
Yeah.
And then so you get a little snapshot of what it was like to be around those children, and watch them evolve into something that's like a world-class athlete. And you got to see that firsthand with the family and all that.
Yeah, and it was it's so special. I still remember going to his high school state playoff games. I got to as many games during the season as I could, but I remember they made it to the state championships, and going over there and just seeing the level of which they do it. I went to a small high school. I think graduated with like 110 kids in my class, but to see sports, and Florida's a mecca for baseball, but to see it done at that level at such a young age. And we knew, you could tell this kid was gifted for a long time, but you never know if it's going to go to the level it's gone to. You know what I mean? It's just neat. And you mentioned the U.S. hockey team. I'm a pretty tough guy. I was crying during that game. At the end of that game, when they brought out Johnny Hockey's kids who had passed away in that bicycle accident, and they brought his kids for the picture, the gold medal picture, and his jersey, I just thought, that's a special sport. Yeah. You don't see that a lot. That was special.
Yeah, my friend Bob Pizzini, who also has a show on our network. he's really big in the whole hockey world, hockey family up in New York, and with both pros, college level, kids level hockey. And I just sent him a text and I said, "Holy crap!" And he came back, ditto.
Yeah.
But he was at a party; they were watching it. All of his hockey friends and everything. So recently, you agreed to be on the board of directors of Warriors Haven USA, which is our Veterans Vocational Foundation, which is great because we basically just started about a year ago. We're trying to build a board of advisors of people that high energy and a good sense of right, wrong, justice. So those are important. Very patriotic Americans. The right, wrong, and justice thing is, how do we take care of veterans? Are veterans getting a fair shake when they walk out the door? And I don't know if they're getting, not getting a fair shake, but there's a disadvantage to focusing like you have to do in the military on just that job to the exclusion of all other things.
Right.
And then one day, for whatever reason, by choice, by injury, or you retire, you step out onto the street. And it's like a science fiction movie where somebody they've been, asleep in time. They come out and the whole world's changed, and they don't understand anything. They don't know what this boxes people are carrying around because they're from a different time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you feel like. You're so disconnected. And the fact that you're willing to give your time and your intellect and your energy to that, I think is really laudable.
Well, let me back up and say I was honored when we had lunch and I was honored. And I think the first thing I thought after that was, why me? Like, how do I get this honor of being able to do this? But to your point of having energy and being dedicated, and I love America. And I think that there's no bigger sacrifice in the world than these veterans that go over there and literally risk life and limb. And I just, first of all, it was an honor, right? But then I started thinking about it. I think I sent you 2 or 3 texts that said, all right, well, I'm pumped, but I feel like I know nothing. What do I do? How do I help? Like, how is this going to look, But in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to do something like this. And I've, in the past, I volunteered to foster dogs and care for dogs. And that was always something that was near and dear to my heart. And then I kind of heard about the different types of things you were going to do with equine therapy and canine therapy and things like that. And it just instantly was like, yeah, this is right. I just got to figure out how to fit me into this program to make it, what's my highest and best use, I guess.
So kind of a gut instinct.
Yeah. Look at that.
Kind of a push into
yeah.
Well, we're very happy to have you. And, most people that get into as a volunteer or as a board member into charitable endeavors. I've been on lots of boards. Co-founder Pete Gary, he's been on lots of boards, commercial boards, business boards, nonprofit boards. And in a lot of cases, we were invited in because people needed help or they needed another brain in the room. And then you sit there for your first meeting and you don't know anything about the cause.
Yeah.
And there might be somebody there that's been working it their entire life, or they have an example, whether it's boys and girls clubs, or they have a child that they put through the program. That's why they became passionate about it 20 years ago. And you feel like you're still on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
What do they want me in here for, right? But I found, and this is kind of back to the Louis Pasteur thing, chance favors the prepared mind that you cited earlier. If you just kind of go with the instinct, the feel that I think this would be something I could contribute to. I don't know why or how, but I feel like that I should say yes. And I'm better at it now. In the early times I was brought on, especially the Boys and Girls Club of Maryland, me? Are you kidding me? So I'm sitting there next to Cal Ripken's mom and Colin Powell's wife. I'm like, why me? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
But ignorance is objectivity.
True.
And objectivity is super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the dumbest person in the room, you're going to be asking the smartest, most insightful questions.
Yeah.
Compared to everybody else who's bought into it. It's embedded, their opinions, what they think they're doing with it, what they think they're doing right, what they think they're doing wrong, who they think they're serving.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing in business operations. And people are afraid to do things that are new and different, or they aren't the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, there's this weird power of coming in there and asking a bunch of tech engineers and a robotics board a really simple, stupid question.
Yeah.
And
Fresh perspective,
and
right?
have them all stare at you because it's about strategy.
Yeah.
That's not their forte.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually the downside to their tenure on those boards and in those industries is that they're basically an encyclopedia from 1986.
Yeah.
They just don't know it.
Yeah.
They've locked into a way of thinking and a way of doing things and all that. And I don't get the impression you're that kind of a person where you're going to get stuck in a rut or plant your flag and say, this is what I know. This is what is right for all time. This is the right temperature. This is the right uniform. This is the right way to work a day. This is the right way to buy or sell a house.
No, you can't. I think I learned something new literally multiple times a day. And I've been in my industry, in real estate, for 24, coming up on 25 years now. Never a day goes by that's the same. Never a day goes by where I don't kind of challenge a belief system that I might have, right? It's not always right. It's not always wrong, but it's good to have that perspective. It's making sense now. You mentioned about being the dumbest guy in the room. That's why that's why you brought me on. I like that.
Well, because I value objectivity. And Pete and I are getting so close to it.
Yeah.
So close to it that you get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And you think it's focus. You think it's drive and focus and motivation. But it's really tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And because there might be 5 different ways to do something.
Yeah.
Or a shorter path than the one you think you have to take.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. How about people? So reading people. Real estate's a people thing. I know people think it's a building property thing. But it's really, when I managed money with UBS, meeting a husband and wife team, the dynamics and the emotions and about money.
Yeah.
Big money.
Yeah.
Spending a big chunk of money on a house, putting a big chunk of money into the market. They just sold a business. I was completely oblivious because I wasn't around rich people, or I wasn't even around people that just sold a house and had $300,000. They were shaking when they talked about it because they're so freaked out about what's going to happen with this money. I don't know what to do. Or I'm about to spend that money on a house. I don't know what to do. How has your background in life prepped you or taught you, maybe even giving you instincts about just reading people?
Yeah, it's such a big part of what we do. In fact, yesterday I was just talking in that coaching session, I was talking about a DISC assessment and being able to kind of quickly figure out what type of personality you're dealing with. I was fortunate enough, I think it was right around when I started with One Sotheby's. Daniel, our owner, brought us out on a retreat, all his leadership team. And we were with a coach, life coach, real estate coach, Liz Bentley, who's amazing. And we all did a DISC assessment. And the irony of it was that all the leaders, the CFO, our president, our chief sales officer, myself, and our chief operating officer, with the exception of our chief operating officer, Vanessa, we were all DIs, which means we're kind of like, forward thinkers and we're quick to act and all kind of personality driven and aren't afraid to speak. And Vanessa was the only one that was on the complete other side, like an SC.
Yeah.
And Liz had said to us in front of everyone, and we lost it, that, the irony of this company is that without Vanessa, you guys would all be out in space, with the greatest dreams and the best plans with no working plan, right? And she said that Vanessa actually keeps us grounded, and to this day, it's so true. It's funny. So you have to have that in your skill set. You have to be able to know who you're talking to, whether it's a client that you're going to get a $20 million listing, and you have to know how to read the room. If you have to sit back and let them dominate the conversation and just add what you add and what you bring to the table as an advisor, or if you have to be a little bit more aggressive in your approach to it and kind of run the show. So I think that's everything in business, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I think most social engagement ends up being contrived and the context of it is pretty much the same thing, where you're trying to get a girl to dance with you, trying to hire somebody, buy something, sell something. It's the human dynamic, and the older I've become, the more I started looking to those experiences rather than the books.
Yeah.
I was a big, voracious reader. I still read about 60 books a year, but it's great. You're reading other people's impressions about life or their industries or whatever their experiences. And it's like living through all these different people's lives, and you gain you learn everything they've done wrong, and you learn everything they've done right. It kind of becomes part of your brain. But really, it's not as valuable as studying and interacting with people. Or, like in this case, interacting with great guests like you.
Thanks.
I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's always fun to talk to you because you're a real high energy guy.
Thank you.
But I
Likewise.
really appreciate you coming on the Instinct Show.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
And you're going
to be with you.
You're going to be episode 1.
I love that.
So when we're at episode 600, we have the big party at some huge hotel.
We're going to have to do anniversary episodes, right?
Yeah, you're have to come out and be episode number 1.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm honored to be on the board and part of Warriors Haven. I think it's going to be an unbelievable thing that you guys are building, and that I'm, to be a small part of helping with that is an honor.
And thank you for that. And hopefully we'll come back on the show sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
All right.